have compassion towards them. It would bother the Imam that they are sinning. With the best tone, with the best akhlaq, they would do everything to try to get them on the path. In one-to-ones, we have that in Islam. But when it comes to a community, here, someone can't forgive an act of oppression on behalf of the community and just leave it, say, I forgive you, and then, no. The best interests of the community has to be served. There, no. You have to fight for justice or fight against oppression. You can't just leave it there. But on one-to-ones, there's no limit. The next is the Haqiqa. Now the Haqiqa are or is my states, the Holy Prophet said. What were the states of the Holy Prophet? Ma a'budu rabban lam ara. I never worshipped a Lord that I don't see. Amir al-Mu'mineen said that. They would see Allah, not with the physical eye. They would taste Allah, not with the physical taste. They would hear Allah, not with the physical ear. These are states of the Prophet. Ati'ni, ati'ni, aj'aluka mithli. Allah says, you obey me, I'll assign you like myself. We have that capacity too. Allah will assign us like Him. Being a manifestation of divine attributes, being patient, generous, forgiving, and so on and so forth. Now, someone may say, but the verse in the Holy Quran says, Laysa kamithli shay. Yes, Laysa ka mithli hi shay. There's nothing like Allah's like. See, no. We have to translate the kaf and the myth. Why don't you translate both of them? They say the kaf is superfluous. It's za'id. There's no need. It just emphasizes the point. No, the Uraf don't like that. There's no one like Allah's like, referring to the Ma'sumin. But we have that capacity. The capacity is there. And we have to be with the people in order to acquire divine, lordly attributes. If you're stuck in the house and don't associate and don't socialize, how are you going to learn being patient? How are you going to learn being forgiving? How are you going to learn being generous? You have to live with the people. But don't incorporate the people's sins. That's it. But you have to be with them. These are important points. Anyway, the haqiqa, these states of the Holy Prophet, we have that capacity too. Allama Tabatabai has said that religion comprises of haqiqa. That's the goal of religion. That's the objective of religion. Experiencing the states of the Prophet. If anyone asks you what's the goal of religion, this is the answer. Islam comprises of the haqiqa. Then he says, the way to the haqiqa, the way to acquiring that, reaching haqiqa, the states of the Holy Prophet, is the tariqah. Once you perfect those noble ethical traits, you become closer and closer to experiencing those states. Then he says, the way to the tariqah is the Shariah. In order to perfect those noble ethical traits, to reach that stage, you have to master the Shariah. You see, that's Allama Tabatabai speaking now. How very delicately he's phrased the word. حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. That's a tradition from the Ahlul Bayt. Love of the world is the root to all sins. Imam Khomeini has given a commentary to this. He says there are many actions which aren't haram in the Sharia, but they contaminate the soul, holding on to grudges, jealousy, and so on and so forth. It's not haram from a Sharia point of view, but you're contaminating the soul. This contamination, if it reaches a certain threshold, it will make you susceptible then to commit Sharia sins. Yes. Then there are another set of sins now, not in the realm of ethics. We call them Irfani sins. They're not Sharia sins. What are those? Someone loves a big house, loves a big car. There's nothing wrong with that according to the Sharia. But they love it. That's loving other than Allah. It's not haram. It's not unethical. But it's contaminating the soul. And that contamination, if it leads to a certain threshold, it will make you susceptible to ethical sins and then eventually to Sharia sins. And that's how we have to make sense of what happened to Zubayr, what happened to Shimr. People like me are nothing compared to what Zubayr was in relation to Wilayah. People like me are nothing compared to what Shimr was in relation to Wilayah. Shimr, defender of Wilayah, Battle of Siffin, defended Amir al-Mu'mineen. He almost became martyred. How come these people, what happened for them to change? Maybe this is what happened. That love of the world. Now, be it prestige, job, anything. It's not an ethical sin. It's not a Sharia sin. It's an Irfani sin. It's contaminating the soul. After 5 years, the effects may not be seen. 10 years, no. But 40, 50 years down the line, you'll eventually reach the threshold. Then it'll all break loose. It'll lead to ethical sins, and then ultimately to Sharia sins. You then fight against Wilayah, for example. See, these are very delicate things, and these people were strong like Zubayr. You know, we're nothing. Just look at how we should see ourselves. Okay, now, so Shariah, Tariqah, Haqiqa, that's one classification we see in the traditions. Then there's other classifications that we see. One, holy tradition attributed to the Holy Prophet says, Man a'asha fi dhahir al-rasul fahuwa sunni. One who lives on a par with the external side of the Prophet, they are Sunni. Sunni, the literal meaning of Sunni, those who abide by the Sunnah, the customs of the Prophet. If you like that Sharia dimension. وَمَنْ عَاشَ فِي بَاطِنِ الرَّسُولِ فَهُوَ Sufi. But one who abides by the inner dimension of the Holy Prophet, that Tariqah, they are called Sufis. And there are so many traditions where this word Suf, which means wool, we see it in many traditions. In the Tariqah, those noble ethical traits, invocations, the spiritual mantras and so on and so forth, one of the underlying principles is abandonment of the worldly life. You abandon the worldly life. Now, detachment from the worldly life, abandoning the worldly life doesn't mean, living alone in a house monastically. No. It means have everything, but see and do everything lawfully. Remember the washing of those causes. Fill your heart with Allah whilst you're married, work, study, earn. If you do everything lawfully, you're detaching from the worldly life. That's the main understanding of it. Not to just separate physically from everything. Once upon a time, one mistaq, one application of abandoning the worldly life was wearing woolen clothes. Now this may not apply today, but it applied once upon a time. But the woolen clothes per se wasn't the meaning, wasn't the be-all and end-all, wasn't the ends. It was a means to something important. Just pay attention to these traditions, both from the Holy Prophet. Alaykum bilibas as-suf. I enjoin upon you wearing woolen clothes. Tajiduna hilawat al-iman fi qulubikum. Then you will perceive the sweetness of faith in your hearts. Now, does woolen clothes itself lead to something into your heart? Of course not. Otherwise it will be very simple. Even non-believers can wear woolen clothes and they will taste the sweetness of faith. Woolen clothes, it's a code, it's a means to something. Once upon a time, it was indicative of abandoning, detaching from the worldly life. You see, you can't take these traditions at face value. Man labisa suf raqqa qalbo. One who wears wool, their hearts become softened. Softened means the hearts become more accommodating towards spirituality. Does wool have that effect? Now you just focus on the wool now. You'll never get anywhere. These were just once upon a time examples of how to detach from the worldly life. One thing was wearing wool. There were many other things too. But this suf then gradually it became used so much, and Sufi, which is someone who's treading along the spiritual Tariqah, in addition to the Shariah, but now they're also treading along that path of detaching from other than Allah and filling the heart with Allah. Sufism is a science. It's like Irfan. It's the same. There's two synonyms. It's a science. This science has principles. Those principles, like science, like medicine, are extracted from resources and sources. The Quran, traditions. Sufism or Irfan means Tariqahology, the science of Tariqah. The science of reaching Allah, that spiritual route to that Haqiqa. It's a science. It's called Tariqah, the study of Tariqah. And we can extract it from the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. That's it. Now there may have been Sufis who have abused Sufism. That doesn't mean Sufism is bad, doesn't mean Irfan is bad. You'll have a doctor, for example, who has abused his medicine, his knowledge in medicine. It doesn't mean you forget everything and put medicine aside. So here, Irfan, Sufism, it's that science of the Tariqah, the science of acquiring that spirituality to reach in seeing, hearing, tasting Allah, not with the physical senses. Experiencing those states of the Holy Prophet, ahwali. Now in Sufism, although I don't want you to abuse this statement, there's no Sunni and Shiism anymore in the domain of the Tariqah. The labels of being Sunni and Shia are labels given in the realm of the external realm, the letter of the law, the Shariah. The Shariah labels you as a Sunni or a Shia. One's theology labels you as a Sunni or a Shia. But one's Tariqah, no. And that's why all the Sunnis say, all Sunni Tariqahs, they go back to Amir al-Mu'mineen. All of them say that. It doesn't apply here that much. But still, if you enter the Tariqah with a solid Shariah, it will be more productive. No one's denying that. But the Tariqah itself doesn't know of these labels. Now, Ayatollah Hassanzadeh Omari has written in one of his works, Irfan is the science of building man, which in effect involves the soul's mi'raj, ascension, to knowing Allah and its elevation, the soul's elevation, by incorporating the divine lordly attributes within oneself. تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ, the Holy Prophet said. Incorporate the divine attributes, Allah's attributes within yourselves. By incorporating the divine lordly attributes within oneself, and to discipline oneself with the divine etiquettes. An Irfan-less community is tantamount to a lifeless corpse. Now this is Ayatollah Hassanzadeh. In the same way, in the Shariah, you go to the A'la, the most learned ones in the Shariah, in the Tariqah, go towards the A'la. Just because you are a faqih, a mujtahid in the Shariah, doesn't by default mean you're a mujtahid or a faqih or a'lam in the Tariqah. No. Irfan, it's a science. It has to be studied. It has its own textbooks, like in fiqh. Who are the a'lams today? You have to research, as you research for the a'lam in fiqh. Do your research. Names such as Ayatollah Bahjat, they haven't come on our tongues for no apparent reason. Names such as Ayatollah Hassanzadeh, Imam Khomeini, these people were experts. All three of them, in addition to being faqih. In fiqh, Imam was a faqih. In philosophy, irfan, akhlaq, in his 20s. You don't have many people like this. That hadith on wudu which I said, that whenever you nullify, you do the wudu, 2 units of prayer, supplicate before Allah. I forgot to mention this. This Ayatollah Hassanzadeh has given this as an instruction for anyone. So you can be free to execute it. But do it once a day. Your wudu may be nullified 10 times a day. You just do it once a day. Because there's always the risk of burning yourself out. You may think you're made out of iron and everything. But you have to be careful. Then after a few weeks, do it twice a day. And I think it's better to stop at 2. You'll know when to go more. But twice a day is good, yes. Their books are proof for us. It doesn't have to be, like a taqlidi thing in relation to the Tariqah. We don't have that as such. And Sufism today has been so abused. We have all these cults. It's as if it's a religion, whereas Sufism isn't a religion. It's a science, that's it. Religion is Islam. It's multidimensional. One aspect, one dimension is that of the Tariqah. A community without Irfan is tantamount to a lifeless corpse, just stuck to the letter of the law. There's no spirit. True Irfan, Ayatollah Hassanzadeh says, is made up of the logic of revelation and the traditions issued by the infallibles. Okay, Imam Khomeini now. Imam Khomeini has something extra. I haven't seen it in anyone else's works. There's a very small difference between the Sufi and the Arif. Because up to now, we're saying Sufism and Irfan are synonymous. Imam writes, Sufis and Urafa. Urafa being the plural of Arif. Sufism and Irfan, which are commonly used terms, their usage, however, are usually not observed. And there is in fact a difference. Irfan is that science that explores the levels of oneness of Allah and His manifestations in a manner dictated by Irfani taste. Now what this means, inshallah, for those who attend tomorrow's lecture at ASU, I'll open this up there. This requires a bit of it. as well as exploring the fact that existence and the order of the cosmos are all manifestations of absolute beauty and His, Allah's essence. That's what Irfan does. Whoever has knowledge in relation to this science is called an Arif. The science of acknowledging that whatever is a manifestation of Allah, and the science of acquiring unity with that essence of Allah. Whoever has knowledge of how to get there, and whoever has knowledge of the fact that whatever is a manifestation of Allah's attributes, they are called an Arif. So it's still an academic thing. And whoever converts this knowledge to the practical dimension, transferring it from one's aqli dimension into one's heart, such a person is called a Sufi. It's not merely an academic process anymore. So there's a small difference between the Sufi and the Arif. Okay. Now, as I said, Sufism has been abused. One form of abuse is by segregating Sufism from the Shariah. That's an abuse of Sufism. And sometimes we see in the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, they are cursing or they are going against the Sufis. They're speaking against, reproaching the Sufis. Why? Because those Sufis were separating the Shariah from religion. And sometimes we see Sufis attacking Sufis. When you see that, it's because one of them, they want a Sufism minus Shariah. That's wrong. Islam is multidimensional, but we have to always have those dimensions of it. You can't get engrossed in one dimension of Islam. The attributes of majesty, Jalali attributes, and the attributes of Allah's beauty, the Jamali attributes, both together have to be observed. What does that mean? Sometimes you see a father who's a scholar, and the son has such a good father-son relationship. The son becomes engrossed in the father's compassion, love and everything, that the son neglects the father's attributes of majesty, like he's the boss, he's the leader, this, that and the other. And then they don't listen anymore to the father, because they're so drowned in the attributes of compassion and everything. That father may be a serious man, leader in the community, but for that son, because the son was drowned in the compassion, sympathy of the father, he's discarded the other dimension of leadership from the father, and therefore he gets engrossed in the one dimension and doesn't listen anymore. The reason why the Imams, the Ma'sumin, would always still do their salat, even though they had reached the highest stages, because they always observe the Jalali attributes of Allah. Do this, do that. They never neglected that dimension, those attributes of Allah. And then they both are important for that balanced Arif. Another way it's been abused is scholars who have learned a few terms and a few sciences, let's say in the seminaries in Qom or wherever, then now they're making a business out of it. Because, this is the core of religion, now it's important. It really elevates people. People are thirsty for it. After the Shariah, in the same way we're thirsty for a Maraji, we go and see what are the do's and don'ts of the Shariah. People will come to them. They make a business out of it. Now, Imam Khomeini, in relation to this last group of people, he has a very interesting passage in 40 Hadith. And I'll read this passage and inshallah I'll stop. If I have the time. There's no clock here. Yes. Is it okay to go? Yes. Here, Imam says in 40 Hadith, he says, the Arif who disdains others on account of his pride in relation to his mystic knowledge. So an Arif has learnt this mystic knowledge, and as a result they disdain others, because I have this knowledge you don't. And this pride comes in, and considers others to be superficial and shallow. Although the text says, and considers others superciliously to be superficial and shallow. So I, for example, have learned this knowledge of Irfan, and I see you people, for example, as superficial people, shallow people, na'udhu billah, that kind of attitude, because of my pride of learning something. What knowledge, Imam is saying, does he possess about God, except for a handful of concepts and terms that are in reality veils of realities and hindrances in this religious path? This arrogance and pride they've acquired as a result of just knowing a few simple terms, it's led to their arrogance. This arrogance is going to be an impediment, an obstacle for them to spiritually journey towards Allah. What is this knowledge except for a number of glamorous and gaudy terms which do not have any relevance whatsoever to the knowledge of God? No, don't be fooled. It's only a set of terms. Knowledge of God is much something else. How far are they from the knowledge of God and the knowledge of His names and attributes? Knowledge is a quality of the heart. And in the view of this writer, referring to himself, all these are practical sciences and consist not of mere acquaintance with certain abstract concepts or artful juggling of terms. With this short life and limited knowledge, Imam Khomeini is saying, I have seen certain people amongst these so-called Urafa and other scholars who, I swear by Irfan and knowledge, that these terms have not made any mark on their hearts. It's all an ego problem. They're drowned in ego. If you want to tell a true Arif from one who's not, look at, is he making a business out of it? Is he earning out of his science, his knowledge? Is he treating others? Does he treat the elderly gentleman different to the young child? Does he neglect some of the community, but he always has breakfast with the rich, for example? Is he getting money from people? Does he have an ego problem? These are signs of the Tariqah. These are signs of someone who doesn't have the noble ethical traits. Nay, they have rather left on them an opposite effect. My friend, the Irfan of Allah makes the heart a place where Allah's names, attributes and essence are manifested. تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ. We want to incorporate divine attributes within ourselves. The heart, our soul, is a place where we want Allah's attributes to manifest. إِنِّي بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. The Holy Prophet was manifesting the Muhammadan soul. The heart is a place where Allah's attributes have to manifest. A stage for the appearance of the real king, the real monarch. That's Allah, who obliterates all signs and purges it of all stains and removes from it all limitations. You incorporate Allah, Allah's attributes within you, it will eliminate all stains and impurities from you. When the real king comes in, all ego will go away. Then Imam mentions this verse of the Quran. Now this verse of the Quran, Imam is referring to the esoteric, the inner understanding, the inner esoteric layer of this verse. Otherwise the external understanding of the verse has no relevance to the context of the discussion. It's in relation to Queen Sheba Sabah, when she was discussing with her cabinet Sulaiman alayhi salam and his army, they're coming. What are we going to do here? What's your advice? The cabinet then said to Queen Sheba. Now, this is not the external meaning that we want to see. We want to see what the inner meaning is. Imam, that's his purpose here. I'll tell you what it is. Let me just read the verse. Innal muluk